Well, scientific discoveries, we normally mean things that are done within what you might call scientific disciplines, for example, as opposed to, that I just discovered that this mountain is on the right and not on the left.
Scientific discoveries are a vital element of scientific practice. And so they must be an integral part of the study of what science really is, what makes science science.
There are discoveries that, they are discoveries, but, suppose you didn't make those discoveries, the field would not have changed much. The truly important discoveries are those that make a difference for the whole field. And of course, the best ones are the ones that generate entirely new paradigms.
Discoveries are very complex processes. Or it's about how you get ideas, or it's about reasoning practices, or it's about how it gets accepted in the scientific community, so it's about our social relations, or it's about all the material conditions, having funding, having equipment, or etc. So it's a topic that requires input from philosophy, from sociology, from political science. It's good to draw on historical cases, so history of science is relevant too. Or because it's such a complex phenomenon, we do need a lot of disciplines to investigate it.
Scientific discoveries need to be, in a way, rigorous and have the appropriate amount of conceptual sophistication on the part of the individual or individuals that are making the discovery, and they need to have the conceptual sophistication that requires them to count as knowing that they're finding something new.
Ideas of other people on that topic, and they stimulated me to outline an idea of how discoveries are made and how to delineate the concept of discovery against finding or observation, and what part could be played by other factors that make a finding a discovery, as I think any discovery is a finding, but not all findings are discoveries.
The act of acceptance as a discovery, and this makes it really a scientific discovery, is the most distinguishing aspect of scientific discovery.
I think there's something about a discovery being made within a system of knowledge, within a system of a conceptual scheme that is somehow systematized and organized.
I'm giving some examples, some straightforward and some rather bizarre examples of scientific discoveries in the field of physics that, that have shown that a discovery itself is not a unique, it's not a little event, but it's rather a complicated and rather complex thing which happens, and there's most of the times more than one person involved. So it's a collaboration of several people and not just one single person.
My contribution to the conference is to focus on the topic of discoveries in the science of linguistics, while also offering a slightly different perspective to the one that's been offered by other speakers in this conference so far about what's involved in making scientific discoveries.
My particular contribution in my talk was the role of blunders in science, and in particular this thing which I call brilliant blunders, which means blunders that are made not when you are being not careful or, just plain stupid, but rather blunders that are made because people try to think in unconventional ways outside the mainstream, And in those cases, of course, you may make blunders.
The organizer of the conference, Michel, asked me a very interesting question, which is what counts as a discovery in environmental studies? And so I came to the conference to talk about that, to wrestle with that really interesting question of what makes for a discovery within a field, and to reveal to myself even the nature of my own field, environmental studies.
It is a challenge to reflect on the own discipline, but also its relation to other disciplines, to perhaps to draw a whole picture of scientific disciplines.
Theology is a subject that has very many different subdisciplines, and in many of them we share methods to other secular counterparts of these disciplines. Like, say, in church history, you have the secular counterpart which is historical sciences. And in all these subdisciplines, you have the possibility of scientific discoveries.
A professor of theology addressed very much the same issues, interdisciplinarity. And I was also extremely interested in the initial lecture by the organizer, by Jan Michel, because he laid down the central question, which is about the nature of discovery and the conditions that go into scientific discovery. So that's been the sort of guiding theme of the whole conference.
Hearing people from other disciplines can be appropriately, in a healthy way, shocking, or at least have the experience of taking a cold shower being something like the experience of taking a cold shower, because it often forces you to think about your own typical problems in a radically different way.
My field is comprised of people that come from a lot of other disciplines: biology, geology, economics, philosophy, history, political science. And so the question really is, what binds us all together in this other discipline of environmental studies?
So, for example, a physicist just does a whole different kinds of actions in his everyday scientific work than, say, a philologist or a philosopher. So I think this is a challenge, to find something like a common ground on which we can find out what the nature of scientific discoveries is.
Scientific discoveries matter a great deal. They've not been a subject of intensive, sustained research on the part of any discipline that I know of, at least. And so my hope is that by getting people of different walks of intellectual life together to share ideas and to learn from each other, we might be able to heighten the status and the prominence of that discussion for future discourse.
I think it's important to reflect on how science develops, and scientific discovery is a very important ingredient of how science develops. And that is extremely important for making wise decisions about science funding, about how we create our institutions, etc. So I would like philosophical research to connect quite closely with practice and being part of informing our science management, or how to make good conditions for science.
And besides of that, I think scientific discoveries have a good potential for the broader public. It's always fascinating for young people to learn about scientific discoveries with a sort of speculative character. And this may also motivate young people to study scientific subjects and maybe to devote their lives to becoming a researcher.